Welcome to Window Dressing. I'm Madeline Jane Auble. This week, I take a conveniently timed look at Harmony Korine's 2013 film Spring Breakers. Conveniently timed because I'm writing it during spring break. The way this film lands now, 13 years later, and its visual legacy for women and girls is what piqued my interest. The experience around rites of passage, like spring break, are heavily dismissed and misunderstood because of the patriarchal boundaries of freedom-seeking activities for women and girls who participate in them. But there is also an equating of frivolity with disposability and sexuality with misogyny that further muddies the average read of this film. Spring Breakers is essentially a teen exploitation film and has very little of the hyperrealism of Korine's 90s cult classic film, Kids. It is quite the opposite, actually. The Tumbler-style image montage of this film appears to be a meditation on the vacuous and the deeply problematic areas of American culture, namely drugs, young girls, white rappers, and group sex. But the commentary on aesthetics, as an indication of ideals unsaid, is profoundly pertinent to girlhood in this country. The soundtrack, consisting of two Britney Spears songs at a time when her 5150 and subsequent conservatorship was embedded in culture, draws an unmistakable image of the freedom-seeking at the core of every neon bikini and down-to-fuck branded pair of sweatpants worn in this film. In the wake of the Epstein Files data dump and Donald associations with Florida, namely his famed country club Mar-a-Lago, we find ourselves in a time where the state may be completely written off as a cesspool of and law enforcement who aided that abuse. Florida's Sunshine Law, which is basically an open-air Freedom of Information Act for the state, making police records public record with very little fuss, means the state has long been seen as wild and irrevocably trashy. The regional identity of the place that existed good and bad before 2016 election and pre-Epstein will soon be a memory forgotten. This may extend beyond Florida and be true of all regions with hyper-American culture, because the country itself is now synonymous with monsters. I think the fixation with country music that is currently en vogue is much less MAGA and much more about not wanting to color the culture created by regional identity with a scarlet letter, or red hat, as it were. Further evidence of Spring Breakers' relevance beyond location is the saturation of images on what I like to call girl Instagram, the unhinged and wonderful side of the internet, where mugshots of young girls who crash out circulate alongside glitter dolphins, hair tutorials, and endless stills from this film. The current bedazzling of prescription pill bottle trend was made manifest by the neon accent nails of Florida white trash and Britney Spears combined. To understand what I'm talking about, you have to understand the omnipresent commodification of young girls' bodies. You literally can't escape it, and we tend to be forced into the choice between shame and sluttiness very early on. Add poverty, blonde hair, and the ingrained notion of the pursuit of happiness, and you have the most magical and disastrous part of any girl's life. The power of being desired without the knowledge of accumulative trauma, or the approaching and core-shaking abandonment by culture, community, and eventually yourself, is positively intoxicating. It's the most magical feeling in the world to be a girl, until you realize it's reliant on men, as is the structure of our world. Those who have no understanding of anything other than your sparkle quickly snuff it out and wonder why you no longer shine. I am talking about the girl who is dismissed as dumb, slutty, trashy, unserious, and so on. The power in her image, in her heart, is so viscerally felt, yet so unendingly dismissed and even villainized for being a contributing factor to inequality between the sexes. Women who enjoy the male gaze are not doing it for men. They are doing it for fun. I promise no man I have known has ever taken a meaningful interest in my Melrose Place obsession, tanning bed fixation, lipstick fetish, or my possession by an aesthetic. They really don't care. It's the language women have to communicate things that simply are not readable under patriarchy. the important things about our joy, our degradation, and our freedom seeking hearts. Hearts that are only mended by making a man suck on the barrel of a gun like it's a cock, as happens in my favorite scene in this film, which is only a degrading act because the woman is usually the one expected to be on her knees, even when her safety, or perhaps especially when her safety, is at risk. The phallic symbolism aside, the girls start this story strapped. They rob a fast food joint in their Florida adjacent small town. The weapons at work are squirt guns, but the force behind them is an all American brand of freedom at any cost. And honestly, it's an inspiring bit of fighting dirty for women's rights to happiness. I'm very glad to see female rage performed on screen or in life under any circumstances. Teen girl recklessness is the most precious thing on this earth. It acts as a reminder of who we are in our bones. Wild. A group of four girls, a Disney-laden cast of stars including Disney Channel alum Vanessa Hudgens, Ashley Benson from Pretty Little Liars fame, Selena Gomez from Disney and Bieber lore, and Harmony Korine's wife, head to Florida for spring break with their earnings. Gomez plays Faith, the only brunette in the bunch, and the one who leaves early out of a grounded fear of God and a sense of purpose beyond the divinity of freedom seeking. Benson plays the hot blonde named Britt, a name that makes her the lead in my estimation. Her character's personality hinges on her skill at playing craps in a bikini with a bunch of men. Perhaps the hardest of the bunch, her angelic hair and soft-core pop name make her the focus of strength required to survive girlhood. Vanessa Hudgens plays Candy, another Disney princess turned box-dyed blonde with a sparkle in her eye and an unfettered sense of debauchery. Rachel Corrine, Harmony's wife at the time and 14 years his junior, plays Cottie. She is the pink-haired hottie with an internalized sense of safety that only comes from youth and Florida's weather. Rachel and Harmony reportedly split in 2025, and to be completely honest, I find it deeply unpleasant to think about this young woman's youth being wasted with a celebrated male director 14 years her senior when she met him when she was 20 years old. 5 years before her brain was fully developed. I am so exhausted by this constant condoning of coercive control and, quite frankly, the use and abuse of young women's hearts and minds. There was zero equality in that pairing, and it's not because he is so great. It's because she was so young, just to be clear. The group of girlfriends ride scooters around the resort town and get wasted in the welcoming waters of Florida's spring break beaches, among fellow travelers searching for the freedom this country promised. Freedom that the constructs of society restrict, or if you're a girl, that society permanently prevents you from meaningfully attaining. Nonetheless, they get as close to freedom as anyone can in the parking lot of a convenience store where they sing Britney Spears to each other, dance around, and mime the robbery that financed their trip. The song from Spears' repertoire is Hit Me Baby One More Time, an apt title for lonely young girls who want to feel alive and wear mini skirts while doing it. As if this quandary was heard by the gods, the girls are sent a dime store pimp with a subpar rap career and an enticing name. Alien is played by James Franco, not yet a known abuser when he was cast. Those allegations started rolling in 2018. He plays predatory well. He has a hot Chevy convertible with a vanity plate that reads Baller, an impressive gun collection, and a gold grill. This combination is impossible for any young girl to resist. Or at least it was hard for me to resist when I was a teen girl. This is something you really may not understand if you were not turned out by a subpar rapper turned pimp when you were 14. And as if the playbook couldn't be any more readable, Alien gets the girls while they are vulnerable by doing them a favor. He bails them out of jail after a particularly debauched day party in which two of his friends who look like lizard twins dripping in Costco gold also get arrested. The girls approach this turn of luck with cautious but excited hearts. all but the grounded goddess named Faith, who is only interested in female friendship and freedom. Say what you will about Jesus freaks, but this movie makes plain that her character's ideas about freedom and power are out of alignment with her friends. She really is not associating it with wealth and violence the same way the others are. All of them live under patriarchy, so all of them are aligning themselves with men. I'm including God in that statement. It's not Faith's innocence that protects her, it's her knowledge of false prophets that keeps her safe. Faith goes home, leaving the two blondes and bubblegum-haired beauty to seek freedom at any cost. Those of us who were born with freedom seeking in our bones will gladly hold his gun and be completely enamored with the false notion that we also have the right to the pursuit of happiness. When the girls do get their hands on his gun for the first time and have the opportunity to kill him and take everything he has, they don't. They opt for subjugation instead. A very patriarchal proxy to power move. This is the scene I mentioned earlier, where they force multiple guns in his mouth and watch him suck. Or demand it, rather. Very little in film has topped this imagery. The fact that Alien enjoys it makes his life worthwhile in the eyes of Brit and Candy. Wild-eyed and armed with agency for the first time in their lives, they are now safe enough to fall in love. The throuple is familial, but I would posit that the love is between Candy and Brit, and that Alien is the audience to their intimacy. Cotty, who I can't see as anything other than more than a decade younger than her director husband, now that I have learned that fact, is often highlighted in scenes with just Alien. Her connection to the other girls is friendship. Her sexual desire is for him. And as all women know, if your desire hinges on a man, your power is precarious, to say the least. Evidence of her vulnerability is the bullet wound she suffers at the hands of Alien's enemy Archie, played by Gucci Mane. Couldn't be more on the nose than that. She goes back home, saving herself from the false promises of freedom that turn into subjugation the more you care for a man. Before she goes, all three girlies and Alien have a picture-perfect scene. The girls are dressed in cheetah print swimsuits in the colors of the Florida sunset, DTF sweatpants, neon Reeboks, pale pink unicorn-adorned ski masks, and AK-47s at their sides. They gather around a white grand piano on the patio poolside. Alien sits at the keys and plays Every Time by Britney Spears, the lyrics of which represent the not-so-subtle struggles of a girl being controlled, exploited, and then trapped by a father, a culture, and a world that sees her as a commodity, not a person. Every time I try to fly, I fall. Without my wings, I feel so small. Getting your wings clipped is not a fun activity, but it is a relatable one for young women in this country. Watching these vulnerable young girls express their fear and embody their rage via AK-47 accessories is an image that is a part of the lexicon of girlhood more than 10 years post-production. As I mentioned up top, this film is the Tumblr-era aestheticization of emotion that is the archetypal imagery of girl world in the mid-2000s, an area of culture so hyper-exploited and misunderstood that the images representing it become imbued with meaning far beyond their origins. This film is a perfect example of that. Do I think Harmony Korine cares deeply about the inaccessibility of the American dream to young women except through service to men or mimicry of them? No, I really fucking don't. Does this film represent the core concept of freedom seeking for the women and girls who may only have contact with the stills that still flood my Instagram feed? Yes, the endurance of this film's images on girl Instagram is proof of what I am saying. It's a communication that is only readable to us. In many ways, we have been left without a way to talk about our experiences and desires that don't conform to a prefabbed form of feminism or anti-feminism. This leaves swaths of young women alienated from respectability and bonded with the detritus of girlhood. After Cotty's exit, the relationship between Candy, Brit, and Alien is cemented. The classic threesome in the hot tub illustrates this point. As in service of men as this imagery is, it is quite obvious that the genuine affection exists between Brit and Candy. In an earlier, pre-alien scene, Candy gently moves a strand of hair away from Brit's face while they watch cartoons on a tablet. The initial takeaway is that these girls are children. But the more meaningful read is that the innocent sweetness between them spells real love. Alien is just a path to power, a societally obligatory daddy to finance their fun. And if it isn't clear, money is not the only path to power for women and girls. Desirability is a major piece of any plan to attain agency, especially when the circumstances you're coming from include poverty and America, or honestly, anything that can lead to being dismissed, like a love of sex or a refusal to tamp down your spirit. To avenge the loss of their former family member, they plan a heist/murder rampage that couldn't be more American if the reason for it was helter-skelter with a side of race war. They go after Archie, the arch nemesis of their daddy benefactor, and the man who's responsible for Cottie's bullet wound and subsequent exit. The transport to the said massacre is a speedboat that is lit by neon lights. The wardrobe is electric yellow bikinis and powder puff pink colored ski masks. These girls wear this look in such an embodied way that it transforms a film chock full of naked women sucking cock and doing drugs into a fable of female rage and freedom fighting. These girlies with guns feel less like the OnlyFans trend searchable under the term girls with guns that serves MAGA incels and more like the Black Panthers arming themselves against the police with the protection and authority of the American Constitution. In other words, it feels less patriarchal and more patriotic. The girls in Alien go in guns ablazing, as the saying goes, and spill the blood of their enemy as a result of their fervor. Alien is shot and killed in the fight, leaving Brit and Candy as the survivors and the de facto beneficiaries of Alien's lifestyle. They leave Florida in his hot car, presumably with all his cash and guns. The literal driving off into the sunset love story is between these two girls, who, when you look back through their documented affection for each other, are clearly in love. Their relationship is filled with sweetness and debauched desire that they let others like Alien participate in, but that was quite clearly between the two of them. They are the fairy tale lovers who get their freedom at any cost and have each other to keep them safe moving forward. It's actually quite beautiful and a satisfying substance to fill the flat images that have so much meaning to the women and girls of Instagram. Imbuing something with meaning happens easily when viewed through the eyes of a girl who believes. So, my takeaway is that the path forward for women is unfettered fun and an unhinged commitment to what was promised and then kept away from us, namely power, freedom, and a hot car. Thank you for listening to this short spring break special episode of Window Dressing. Please like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening or watching. Follow me on Instagram for additional content at Window Dressing Podcast or on my personal page at Madeline Jane Auble. I am in the process of starting a Patreon where I will have loads of extra content, including outfit sourcing and the process I go through to write and record each episode. You will be able to talk directly to me and help shape the content I provide on Patreon. I will be back soon with another episode of Window Dressing. I'm Madeline Jane Auble.